creation. So today we have an amazing panel that's going to be addressing the unseen struggle, the activism that aided in the creation of the Black Resource Center, where I'll be joined by other alumni who will be talking about their key role and information of the Black Resource Center and their experiences as a student leader at SDSU. Okay. Mm-hmm. So before we dive into the panel introductions, just a show of hands, or you can, I guess, put a thumbs up or anything. How many of you know what year the Black Resource Center was founded? Okay, and then how many of you know the history behind the creation of the Black Resource Center? Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna go straight to the introductions. I will be
telling y'all. We had a guess, Zakia. Somebody guessed something in the chat.
Oh, 2018. Almost Nicole. A little bit earlier than that, but it was created. Actually, I guess you can say 2018, right? Because it was created in 2017 and it was open to the public in 2018. So actually, yes, Nicole, you are correct. So we will get straight into the introductions. So for my guest, I will be beginning with Ashley Houghton. Next, it will be Terry Sivers. Then it will be Emery Taylor. Then myself. And then right after I mention my name and give my introduction, I will be reading a statement from Maisha, who was unable to attend today. Okay, so to begin, as you just mentioned, your first and last name, your accolades or degrees, the position at the time when you was at SDSU, and then what you currently are working on.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry I'm not on camera. This is not the best camera moment. I'll be on camera shortly, though. So like Zakia said, my name is Ashley Houghton. I was a student at SDSU from 2012, and I graduated in 2017. I forgot the rest of the questions, Zakia.
No problem. So you can mention your position, and then from there you can mention what you're currently working on now.
Okay, right. So I was secretary for 2 years for the Africana Studies Majors and Minors Association. And I'm currently in law school at the University of Laverne.
Perfect. Okay. So next we'll have Terry Sivers.
Greetings, everyone. As Zakia stated, my name is Terry. I was a transfer student, started at San Diego State in 2011. I did my undergrad in Africana Studies, master's in counseling, also at San Diego State in the CBB program. I'm currently in a PhD program and in education and getting a second master's in cultural studies at Claremont College. And Ashley, I want to commend you. You were, I think, my first mentee in the Harambe Scholars Program. So I'm so proud of all the everything that you've done. So I'm proud of you.
Terry.
Okay, perfect. Emery?
Hi, I'm Emery Taylor. I was the vice president of AMA, the African American Major and Minor Association. And what else? Any accolades? Anything? I'm sorry.
That's your degrees right also.
Oh yeah, I got a bachelor's in social work and a bachelor's in Africana Studies. And I'm currently just working right now. So that's what I got going on. So
Okay, and hi everyone again. My name is Zakia West. I earned my degrees in 2018. My degrees are in political science and Africana studies. And I have two minors, a minor in sociology and a minor in cultural proficiency. My position at the time, and between, I guess, 2015 to 2017, I was president of the Africana Studies Majors and Minors Association, and I was also a student representative on ASIC, which is the Associated, sorry, I forgot what ASIC means, but that's pretty much the Excellence Council, in which all of the African American student leaders met and discussed events and such of what we were going to be working on later on that semester. So before we go into any background about why we're all here, I'm just gonna read a statement by Maisha. So Maisha, her name is Maisha Ibawi, and she was a student representative. She was the president, I believe, of the Black Student the Black Grad Student Association. So the statement in which she wanted me to read you all is this: to whomever hears this, just like you, it is important to recognize that the creation of the Black Resource Center came about because of so many moments, so many people, and so much energy. We and all the things we create exist because of our desire to materialize darkness into a light that will serve us. There will be many stories told about how the Black Resource Center came about. And it's important to remember that there is no singular story because we are not a singular people. It is also, however, important to remember that many stories will be furthest from the truth, and it will be those that are closer to it. I'm not writing this letter to sort any of those details out, but rather to call in the details that I fear will be most missed in this quest of ego and protection of the truth. It was important for me to highlight the love and community that was present in my road in this moment on campus. During each of us playing our role to challenge the legacy of racism on campus, there indeed was chaos. But more than anything, I remember my friends. I remember my community. I remember laughter. I remember being stressed the hell out, but having arms that would embrace me and mouths that would affirm me. I want to bring this perspective forward because I want to honor how love is and has always been a part of our movements. I want to honor that there were folks who did not participate directly or explicitly in activism on campus during this time. But some of those folks loved on me and filled me up with love to do the work that I was able to accomplish during my time on campus. I want to honor the Black students who came before me, um, whom communed outside of East Commons and made space for Black folks to rest, eat, and laugh. I've recognized this as a part of the necessary spiritual and energetic work that is required to birth something like the BRC. I also want to be clear that my attempt to highlight this love is not intended in no way to diminish the chaos, the racism, the disrespect, or the symbolic and actual violence that took place. But I write this to remind you that everyone involved in this moment on campus and those who are the beneficiaries of this movement, to remember that love was present in both metaphorical and actual ways. I end this letter by saying, let no one convince you that singular events or people, pure chaos or love created this. Please know that a collective combination of both and love, especially from several Black students, faculty, staff, and community, laid the groundwork for the birthing of this space. And then from this, I'm going to share my screen with you all so you can see my. Okay, hopefully y'all can hear. Yes. So
Yes, we can.
perfect. So as Maisha mentioned in her statement, that there was a accumulation of student activists over the years. So I'm not going to give you a history lesson or anything like that, but I do want to highlight some things of the past. Black is Beautiful was fought by students during the 60s and 70s. And this was pretty much recognition for Black students to have a, which they would call a pageant week, to recognize the beauty of Black students. So this didn't just come easy. Students had to fight for the recognition of this, and even to include it in their yearbooks. Here you see, this is the Black Student Council. This council, you know, from looking at the old yearbooks in the 40s, 50s, 60s, in, I guess, one by one, Black students were admitted. So these students, these folks were taken in the early 70s. Part of the yearbook, these students fought to create Black Student Council, which you all know today as African Student Union. And of course, we all know that there wasn't a struggle to have Africana studies as we do now. Between the 1968 to 1972, there was a fight on campus, or I guess you would say demonstrations from students, to bring about Africana studies to campuses. At the time when they approved it, it was considered Afro-American studies. Later on, it was changed Africana studies to encompass our African culture. And then, of course, we see that some things rarely change. We have mural vandalism in the early 1990s. It was of a Black mural. And then, of course, we had vandalism currently of the Black Resource Center. Why do I mention this? I mention this because I want you to see that over the decades at San Diego State, and of course, like other colleges, there has been a fight. Us as students have had to fight for recognition, have to fight just to keep things that we so rightfully deserve. And I just hope that by mentioning this, that you, I guess, know that the BRC is your home, because people fought and fought and fought to bring it about. So then that's how we come here to the unseen struggle, activism that aided in the creation of the Black Research Center. These panelists here, we were a part of the founding of the Black Research Center, and we're going to use this time to give you some background of the year or the years that led up to it. So I want to start with this. So in 2016, this is kind of where things kicked off. But in 2016, the U.S. police killed at least 258 Black people, according to a project by The Guardian that tracks police killings in America. So I'm going to go on to the next slide, but I won't play the video. If I can. So In 2016, as I mentioned with the earlier slide, there was a lot of police killings. So at that time in America, I believe that you all would know that, with police killings, definitely of Black people particularly, it's very unnerving. So when this incident happened on our campus, which there appeared to be a violent arrest, students stood in action. And I mentioned this video because this video was the catapult for the Black Research Center. There was decades and decades of organizing, activism, but this was literally the catapult which helped push it forward, because this SDSU arrest brought San Diego State into the limelight, into the media. So I'm gonna share. I'm gonna click on this video. I'm gonna try my best to click between screens so you can see it. So let me pause share for a second. So this, I did mention that this is a trigger warning. If you don't want to see a violent arrest, you can of course turn from the camera. Open link. Let me try to copy it. Sorry, y'all. Trying to figure out why it's not opening. Does another participant probably have access? For some reason, it's not letting me go to a different screen.
Do you want to share it with me, Zakia? I'll share my screen.
Yeah, let me send it to you here. Sorry about that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for your patience. You can't hear sound, correct? Is there sound on the video?
I don't believe so.
No.
Not in this video.
No
I
sound.
wasn't able to find the other video, but yeah, for this one's no sound. If someone has a video that has sound, if you want to share it, then we can watch that one. Okay. So let me go back to share. So sorry about that, y'all. I don't know why it wasn't opening. Okay. And let's go back here. So I do apologize for the video not having sound. However, I did just really want you to focus on, I guess, the handling of the situation. So the initial response from that video, because I believe I believe myself and actually, was anyone there when that incident took place? Outside during that time, outside of the student union? you can raise your hand or you can say yes. And I do know that myself and Emery Taylor was there. But the initial response prompted this very peaceful march. So I'm gonna stop here, and I don't want to give too much of what kind of occurred that day. So I'm gonna open it up to my panelists to discuss their point of view of what happened that particularly this day, and of course their experiences at SDSU that led to the creation of the Black Research Center. So panelists, the first question I'll be asking you is for you to describe your experiences as a Black student at SDSU and how those experiences might relate or might have led up to the formation of the Black Research Center. Then anyone of you can start.
Okay, I guess I'll start. So my experiences that led up to that. So I think aside from that video, when we formed AMA, it was we knew it was going to be a politically charged group. We knew we wanted to show action on campus amidst everything going on in the world with Black people and police brutality, because at that time we started 2015 before I think winter break. So, and then we had Mizzou that happened. So, and with Mizzou happening, we knew we had to do something to show our support. And so the main thing for us was to do something now to show action and to try and get work done instead of I guess instead of just talking about it, we wanted to, I guess, be about it. So that was our first thing was with Mizzou. And so from then on, it kind of took off in my experience being a Black student at San Diego State was, I think, similar to others. It was very difficult. And you knew at the time that there were a lot of issues and a lot of things going on, racially motivated issues too, that it wasn't a safe space, I guess, to talk about those things going on, and a safe environment for Black people to get together and gather. So in the beginning, we didn't know that the Black Resource Center was going to happen, right? But I felt like we needed action, and AMA as a whole wanted to take part of that action and lay the foundation and begin to do different things on campus that was actually going to make a difference and create change. And in all honesty, I think we did, and AMA led to the creation of the Black Resource Center through all the workings and different things that we did with I know Ashley might want to touch on more the crime reports and different things like that, but in everything that we fought, like for Mizzou and different protests that we did with Chicano and Chicana Studies, and we led different protests and led different rallies and held different events to share our experiences and to kind of do what the Black Resources Center would have been doing if it was there at the time. So I think from my experience, it was hard, it was difficult, and the work needed to be done, and I feel like we were there to do it. So I think I deviated from the question a little bit, but there's the beginning of that, and I might say more if I hear something and it sparks my memory, but if anybody else wants to jump in now. But
Thank you, Emery.
Could you go, Terry?
Okay, yeah, so first off, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Dr. Reddick and her staff for facilitating this event. And also note that the current leadership at the BRC and even the current leadership, I mean, the heads President De La Torre and Dr. Wood, they weren't the leadership at the time that all these events transpired. The President Hirschman at the time has since gone on and taken a close to $1 million salary position in a liberal arts school in the East Coast, and much of his he's being credited with with events or the creation of like the Black Resource Center. It's that narrative that's given him access, to positions, even and higher positions and salaries, based upon this narrative that he's this supporter of justice, and that's the narrative for me that's furthest from the truth that has not been told. And I had, like Maisha, who decided not to be present today, I had accepted the fact that this story, this narrative wouldn't be told, that the narrative that currently is in motion about the president coming together with the support of students, this kumbaya, this moment that sparked the creation of the Black Resource Center. I just accepted that to be the case. And that Marquise Campbell, his body, the violence enacted on his body, just like the violence enacted on the 298 so other bodies, Black people across this country who are murdered across this country with no justice, who will all be written off in history. I just accepted this story was gonna just be written off in history. So I want to acknowledge the Black Resource Center for facilitating this event. And again, this is just an accumulation of events that I've been part of at San Diego State, beginning in when I first arrived in 2011, when the police approached me and asked me what I was doing on campus. Subsequent to that, the African American, the Africana Studies Majors and Minors organization put together a town hall meeting to address these issues with police misconduct on our campus. And story after story of Black men and women, teenagers, being assaulted and addressed and approached by the police for no other reason for just being Black. And a student talked about how he's walking through the parking lot and the police on our campus pulled a gun out on him. I mean, we're talking about campus police. Now, Chief Mays, he was new to the campus at the time, and I understand he's been active and involved in trying to create change on this campus. But this is the creation of the BRC. Out of that town hall meeting, one of the initiatives was to creating a BRC. And so when 2016 came around, after the violent assault of Marquise Campbell, of which, although there was a series of charges being brought up against him, the only thing that he was found guilty for was resisting arrest. And me, Amma, some of the Black grad students, we focused our energies and efforts on supporting Marquise Campbell. And we came up with a list of demands, and the demand number one was for San Diego State to drop all charges against Marquise Campbell. There was a list of 10 demands. The only one that they addressed at the time was working with students, not including the Black Grad Association, not include the Africana Studies Majors and Minors, and really not including Africana Studies, period. They worked together with a select number of students to form the Black Resource Center, and leaving out the entirety of the list that we had formalized with the help and support of with Black faculty, with Black staff, with other faculty on this campus. But the only one that they addressed was the creation of this Black Resource Center. And I've accepted that, at the opening ceremony, I just accepted this narrative of the president coming together with these select few Black students, like this was going to be the narrative, and how the story was going to be told from here on out.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn now. Again, sorry I'm not on camera yet. I promise I will be by the end of this call. But as far as my experience at SDSU, and kind of how I feel like what I experienced and the parts I played in activism on campus kind of led to the creation of the BRC. I'm not a beneficiary of the BRC. I left before it was created and everything like that. But I've heard kind of some of what it's done since I've been gone. Essentially, I got to SDSU in 2012, and to kind of set the scene, I'm from Inglewood, California. All my life, I went from kindergarten through 12th grade. All the schools I went to were predominantly Black schools, predominantly Black and Hispanic schools. I had one white classmate my entire early education. Her name was Samantha. And I had very few white teachers. So when I got to SDSU, it was a culture shock to say the least. Like, I had never been in a place where I felt so out of place before. And so it took me a long time to get comfortable on campus. And the only way I was able to, there's even times where I thought about, transferring, because it was just so much of a culture shock and it didn't feel like it was something I could do. And it wasn't until I found my community in the Africana Studies department that I was able to, really find my place, and beyond that, find myself as a Black woman, and essentially unlock my passion for activism, for justice, for Black people. I've always been proud to be Black. It was never an awakening of that, but it was truly awakening of a consciousness as far as what it was that I was meant to do with my life. And a lot of that I accredit to AMA, to the Africana Studies Majors and Minors Association. We created AMA. Forgive me, my brain just is not very good with numbers and days and days. So I can't recall when we created AMA, but it was sometime during my junior year, I believe. And we created it because we felt like the current organizations on campus current organizations and resources on campus that were directed towards Black students and our needs and our history, and just the Black resources on campus were lacking. We felt like they were, for lack of a better term, or for no need of a better term, they were whitewashed. They were not serving what they needed to be served. And so AMA came about as a way for students and faculty who were truly invested in the Black experience to have a platform and to do things the way we felt that they should be done as far as concerning the Black community. And so some of the early things that we did was to put on various workshops and speak with different orgs and collaborate with different orgs on campus to address the issues that we were having, because we understood that as minorities on campus, it was definitely a Black issue, but it was other issues. I remember having discussions with Muslim students who were facing discrimination and situations on campus, and the orgs that support them, and we created those collaborations as a way of having a network of support where there was no meaningful support, I should say, because there was definitely that veil of support, that veil of diversity and whatnot. And so one of our premier events, or I don't like to call them events, it seems unfitting, but when the University of Missouri phenomena was going on, ALMA felt it necessary to show our support by protesting on campus. And that protest really was something that I feel like was the catalyst for where we are today. Not withholding all the things that came before us and everything else we did before then, that protest really made our presence known and really let not only the other students at San Diego State, the staff at San Diego State, the leadership at San Diego State, but also San Diego, the city. It really let them know that, that the Black students and the students who care on this campus are for real. I remember lots of students coming up to us and telling us, lots of Black students coming up to us and telling us that this was the first time that they felt seen on campus. Like this is the first time that they felt heard from this institution. And it was a beautiful thing. Now there's, I'm sorry, Zakia, I don't want to keep going. I think you have another question that that kind of addresses like what was the lessons or something to that nature we learned from the protest. Do you have a question like that?
Yeah, so before we get to that, I'll answer this one, then I'll lead into it another question. If that's okay with you.
You said do what?
So I'll answer this question, and then
Okay. Oh yeah,
for the remaining questions, it'll go like that. Yeah.
So
Okay,
essentially,
so
that's all I have to say. Go ahead, Zakia.
no problem. Yeah, so wow, everyone really said technically everything, but I guess I'll delve into the year 2016, because my other colleagues did mention the Missouri protest. So in 2016, as Terry had mentioned, that a list of demands were released, and among the top demands, it was to drop charges against Mr. Marquise Campbell and other. I believe his number 2 on the list was the creation of a Black Resource Center for Black students to serve Black students, and then there were a mess of other demands that we wanted to see in action, definitely in terms of like increasing Black faculty and their presence and increasing Black students on campus. I do believe over the years that there has been a slight increase in Black students and in the hiring process of Black faculty, if that has been made, or if there has been incentives being pushed out. However, at the time, those weren't really those were overlooked. So AMA's part, and being the president of AMA, which is African Studies Majors and Minors Association, during that time, our main focus was on Marquise Campbell. And I will say that, that doesn't mean our focus wasn't on the Black Resource Center. The big thing, the thing about, our main focus of AMA was really to serve the Black community on campus and off campus. And with Marquise Campbell, which I don't believe I gave too much background about it, he was a young man who walked on campus and he wasn't a student. And, he was pretty much, if you saw in the video, he was tackled and arrested and then charged. So the initial response from that among the Black community on campus was, we have to see what the charges was, what is going on, what can we do to help? And there was a split of opinions with groups. One group wanted to, okay, we found what we had to know, and then let's just dip. And then us, because we are here to serve the Black community on campus and the Black community off campus, we decided to actually stick to it and figure out the full picture. And that's why we have this event today. It was for you all to figure out, or not figure out, but to learn different parts of the Black activism that occurred on campus, not just a slither of information. And so AMA particularly worked with the family, close with the family. So a group of students reached out to the family, and then we were the ones who were attending all the court meetings, court hearings, and meeting the defendant and things like that. And meeting Marquise. And we've actually learned the full story, what had happened. And what had happened, which I'll just give you pretty much the I guess the full story is, a young guy walked on campus. He saw a construction sign, a construction area. The gate was open. STSU was an open campus. He went through that gate. How the gate was open, it was said in court that it could have been opened, by accident or whatever, but he entered in that way. Someone had followed him. They said they had said that he had, mucus, whatever, and his eyes were very dry. Well, not dry, but they were very teary-eyed, and they had assumed that he was on drugs. Typical type, not typical, but it's unfortunately it's something that they kind of ascertain to Black folks. If you see someone that looks disoriented, it's not that they're tired or struggling. It's that, oh, something's causing this. They are probably intoxicated or on drugs, and they had a call, for someone to watch him. In court, the security guard said, hey, I told this, I was completely guarding him. I was right behind his tail. I was following him the entire time. You saw in the video there, the security guard was testified was in the video. The security guard was actually 8 feet away. Just like the students were walking before the video, they're walking in front and behind Mr. Campbell. And ultimately in trial, they did charge him on resisting the arrest. And I guess the big thing in which Alma wanted to do and did was that we followed the case, we followed the family, we support the family, because we knew that this incident was, I don't know, I guess it was big at the time. I mean, if you take into account the year 2016, there was just so much police brutality this year, and then as we've seen in recent years. And what if someone didn't reach out to the family? How would the family have known? What if this young man didn't have the support? He would have been in jail, just waiting sentence, possibly years after years. And I'm gonna share my screen real quick so you can see the rest of the PowerPoint. But the rest of the PowerPoint just pretty much goes into what else that Alma did at this time to further bring this incident to the public, so the public knew about it. And that was a big key with this was to inform the public, because by informing the public, you're causing people to act. And that was the big thing that we wanted. We wanted people to act. And let me see if I can play it. So now you see here, for the next 3 weeks leading up to, I guess, the final case or the final trial, we've led protests, not every week, but once a month or so. And these are just some photos from the protests so that you can see. This is Mr. Campbell's grandmother, who's right next to me in this photo. These protests captured media attention. The media attention was very on this case. They were very closely watching it. And when you have a school who's known for diversity at this time, have an incident like this occur on campus, bringing this in the forefront, I believe, or I guess in my opinion, helped catapult administration to actually address at least one of the concerns, which was the creation of a Black Research Center, because this event itself proved that Black students felt that they were either unheard, they were unseen, and that police, or that SDSU allowed police to hurt students on campus, even though this was a non-student. So, and then briefly after this event happened, nearly a week after, Alfred Longo, which was in San Diego, was murdered. And this event really, I feel like it was our intent to really show that if you don't address things here, then in that this person is not remembered for what has happened, then these killings are going to continue happening unless there was some type of action done. So I'll now stop sharing, because I don't believe there's too much afterwards here. And I'm going to lead it out to the next question. And the next question, let me stop share, sorry. Next question for my panelists are, what were the mental health, academic, and physical challenges you face as a student activist during this time at SDSU? And then if you don't feel comfortable answering, that's fine. if you don't mind, I'll go first for this one. So during this time, I was pretty new to activism, even though it seems like it comes natural for Black people. Well, we see something that's wrong, you want to act. But for me, I had mentally, it impacted me negatively because I didn't really know, which one was the most important. Was protecting the community important? Was my grades important? Was my well-being important? And I will be honest that I decided to put my mental health on the back burner, and I went full-fledged into this matter in terms of helping everyone else, in terms of helping his victim, in terms of being with his family. Because I will be honest with you, by working with his family, I saw all the emotions every day, not knowing what's going on, being in court, just all of that emotion just really, really took over for me, at least. And I did have to lean away from academics. I did have to lean away from, I guess, personal care, because I was so focused on making that difference for this family. So that is what I would say at this time was an impact. However, the positive thing, because there's always a positive, is that I realized my purpose. I realized what I wanted to do as a result of all this. I knew that, as a student at STSU, that I knew that I'm not here just for academics. I'm here to serve my community as well, because that's why I came to the school. And I realized that in this case.
I'll keep mine short, but for me, it was definitely mentally challenging, I would say. It was very difficult. I wasn't used to, I guess, to doing anything like any activism or anything like that. It wasn't until I got to San Diego State and seeing so much going on. And I think because I was right there with Zakia, I mean, we talked about it a lot. And for me, I wanted to help. Like I seen so much going on, and I wanted to take part and to actually create something special like AMA. And so it was challenging to deal with so much we had going on, because it was like every week it was something new. It was just something different. And we're like, okay, so how are we going to do this? And at the time, it didn't really feel like, it felt like AMA was on its own. It wasn't, there wasn't a lot of support at the time for AMA, because I think we were doing so much, and we wanted to be out there and actually create something. We actually wanted to show action and create some type of change. So it was difficult mentally. And but the positive for me, I'll do what Zakia did. The positive for me, and it provided me with so much, I guess, with so much comfort knowing the outcome of all that work. Like it supplied me. It's like supplied me with so much. Gratitude to see it all come together, and it'd be like the Black Resource Center for students that are there now have some place to go to, and different things like that. But it was work, and it was moments where we were like, this is a lot, but if we don't do it, who's gonna do it? So that was my experiences, and yeah, and how it was for me mentally. But anyone can go next.
I'd say that there's definitely been a lot of tears shed over the years with on campus, in different spaces that I feel like are safe for me to express those types of emotions. There were the rumors, there was talks of students being blacklisted. There were talks of the administration put together a list of like politically active and engaged students and faculty. The events that transpired. I mean, after that initial day of like unrest, where like the most beautiful, I mean, Tupac talks about, roses growing out of concrete. But that moment when we all stood there collectively around the president's office, that was one of the, unfortunately, it was as a result of the violence against Marquise Campbell, but it was one of the most beautiful moments I've ever experienced at San Diego State University. And just, within a week, to know that the administration and their reaction to that, and how they divided the campus community on this, the black students on this campus, by siloing off a certain segment of the population, like the anger, the disappointment of that. I mean, although I was angry and disappointed and frustrated, it motivated me to continue to fight and to continue to support Marquise Campbell until justice was served. And unfortunately, justice wasn't served, because now he has a criminal record for resisting arrest. When the initial charges, there was about 7 charges of public intoxication, trespassing, and all these others, like a list of charges. I mean, there's faculty that aren't mentioned, faculty who were getting calls from parents because they instead of attending class, they allowed the students to partake in the protest. I mean, faculty that we don't even hear of in terms of the formation. Dr. Nola Butler Bird of the CBB program, she organized meetings with the chief of police, with the president, with the student affairs vice president, who's again now Dr. Wood. We met with the ACLU. I mean, this was a collective effort, and it wasn't just about the BRC, it was about changing the campus culture. On the list of demands, the BRC was 8, and it was Maisha Butler who was ultimately again ostracized from participating in the building of the Black Resource Center. But this was her idea. This is what she did. She had helped facilitate the creation of the Black Resource Center at another campus. So this is what she does. And so she was so passionate about the BRC and the vision for it being connected as a source that's connected to the different, Black spaces on campus. And so it was just a roller coaster of emotions. And ultimately, when 2 weeks later or so, when Alfred Alongo was murdered, me and a friend, and now he just finished his PhD, Dr. Sammy Scales, we were about to go to class up in Los Angeles. We had class that day, and at Claremont Graduate School. Once I got the call that Alfred Alongo had been murdered, he was somebody that I grew up playing football against. We basically packed up our books and left campus to go participate in the protests that were happening about 10 miles from our campus in El Cajon, where Alfred Alongo was murdered by the police. And again, justice was not served in that case. So it's just a roller coaster event, roller coaster of emotions, and it's just what my takeaway is, this is part of the struggle. This is part of the struggle, and I again, my focus and my concentration, as disappointed as I was and am and have been with Black people, whether that be administrators, faculty, or students, I know that we work within this system and within these constraints that really, really challenge us to stand on our square and stand for Black people when the rubber meets the road. And it takes a serious commitment to jeopardize, your life, your livelihood, to make that stand. And I think that we do have administrators in positions, including Dr. Reddick today, who are willing to stand on that square to support Black people, to support the Black students on this campus in ways that previous administrators were not.
Echoing my fellow panelists, I agree. It was an emotional roller coaster. Like I mentioned, from from the initial cultural shock of it all to just having to go through the motions of the different things that we experience. But instead of just echoing that, I also want to kind of just like also speak to the other side of the emotional and psychological effect that this experience had on me personally, and that's one of a rise, awakening of consciousness, I guess is how I kind of call it. Like before, before SCSU, before I was always aware of my blackness, and I was always, you know, proud to be black. I never had any social piece of being black, but what I majored in, I double majored in Africana studies, I said that earlier. But what Africana studies gave me was something that is, I don't need, there's no words to describe it, because what it gave me was literally my consciousness. It gave me the center of who I am, and it allowed me, it just allowed me to truly tap into who I was meant to be. And so when I think about the emotional and psychological effects that that this experience has had on me, I can't help but be so grateful, because without it, without this experience, without it, I wouldn't be the person I am. Like I wouldn't be here talking about the activism. Like all that activism could have never came about without that the psychological awakening that Africana studies and AMA and the essentially it's so interesting that it's called the Black Resource Center, because everything I'm naming, Africana Studies Department and the various professors, shout out to Dr. They were our Black Resource Center. Like, you know, they were our Black resources before the Black Resource Center was a thing. So yeah, so that's like kind of like my take on the mental and psychological, emotional take that the experience had.
And one of the second demand that we had was for San Diego State to publicly come out in support of Black students. And they didn't do that during this time.
Okay, so we will move on to our last question before we open it up to audience questions. For the panelists, why is it important for current students or prospective students or those here to learn about the activism that led to the creation of the Black Resource Center?
I'll just say, because the struggle ain't over. Just because we have a resource center doesn't mean it's properly and adequately funded. Like, what kind of support we could ask Dr. Reddick, looks like, what kind of support does she feel like she's getting from the current administration in terms of providing, you know, the services we need for our Black students who are still heavily marginalized on this campus. You know, we're looking at, you know, enrollment rates of about 4%. But if you look at enrollment rates 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it always been about 3 to 4%, right? So how are we supporting this marginalized population? You know, and so the struggle's not over just because, okay, we have the resource center, we think, you know, we're done. No, we still have to keep fighting, you know, and demanding, you know, that we are, you know, that we get what we're paying for on this campus. You know, it's not like we're here for free. You know, our financial aid and our money's, you know, paying for our space here. So what are they doing to support us? And what else can we be doing? You know, whether you're a first year student, second year, you know what your struggles are, whether that's, you know, living, you know, right now we're not in a dorm environment, but, you know, the dorm environments, you know, we haven't even talked about that. And the unconscious and conscious acts of racism that Black students experience in these dorms. You know, so you know, the struggle's not over. And you know, and it's, some of us have taken on the responsibility to raise our voices, even, you know, if we're not in the end going to get credit for it, if our voices may go unheard. But somebody's got to be willing to take that stance.
I'll also add that one thing I would say that is an important takeaway from the lesson of is the lesson of how easily and how quickly they will rewrite your history, because all the work that um, my alma board put in when I was there, and the work before us, and the Black Grad Student Union, like all that work that we put in, was, like Terry mentioned, was not acknowledged. And I mean, it was acknowledged in some ways nominally, but it was not acknowledged in the ways of, like, when Terry was mentioning who they who they who they chose to represent the Black Resource Center. It wasn't the people or the organizations, because it's not just about the people in the least bit. It's about the work. It's not about the it wasn't backed by the work that was done for it to be there. And so how quickly and easily that they will rewrite your history to try to create a narrative that's more suitable, that's more digestible. And so, like, if I don't know if who all is in attendance that is a current student at SDSU, but even if you're not, to, like, to really to leave them with the fact that you have to be so loud about what it is that you want and that you deserve, and that you have to keep being loud even after you have you've screamed to the top of your lungs. You have to keep screaming, because the moment you allow them to, they will silence you, and get brushed under the rug. You see it a million times over, unfortunately, in our media. And so it's no different than the situation here. I recall after the after the Mizzou protest on campus, how many news organizations and news stations and newspapers wanted to do various interviews with the different members of AMA, and all the hype that was around it. But then, like we said, when it was time to really put pen to paper and really make things happen, it was quiet. It's nothing. It's no talk. So the takeaway from me would be that one, know your history, know what has come before you, so that you can build upon that, and that you can honor that. And yeah, that's what I gotta say.
Okay, Emery, I'll go. Um, okay, so the most important lesson for me, well, Terry and Ashley really just said what I was going to say, but it's fine because they said it very in an amazing way anyway. I guess all that I want to say is just I really hope that you continue to appreciate the BRC, Black Resource Center, and all that they're doing, their events, their everything, that space as a whole, and to treat the space with not only dignity and respect, but to protect it. And we've already known that, in the recent years after it was formed, that many people were trying to, trash it or say rude things about it. Do just protect the space like it's your home, because it is your home. This is your home on campus. The people who work here, whether it's students, faculty, administrators, they're here, they're in that space to help you. And that should be that is their focus. And that's where you should feel most at home at. So I just really want y'all to really understand that part, but then also to know that there wasn't a single event that led up to the Black Resource Center. Like, we're not just saying that, okay, everything that we did is, that's the only thing that you have to know. But what we are saying is that there was created a narrative, and that narrative left out some very important details, and we are filling in that gap, where it was left off. And I also just want people to know that, even as alumni, like it took us, it took a lot of, I guess, patience and I guess it's patience and consideration to even come back and mention this, because it was so much for, I believe I can speak for many of the panelists at that time when it happened. And over the years, that was really our healing time, to come back and speak truth to what had happened during our time on campus. Of course, there's probably other students during other years or earlier years who can speak to what they had created. But I just really hope that that is the main message that you all do get, is that there wasn't a single event, and to treat this space like it is your home, because it is.
And another thing, I guess, just to go off of what everyone else is saying, because they've all said it all so beautifully. And so I'll just say, just don't stop. Keep fighting, because there's still more to fight for. So people have done things before we've got there, and it was still stuff to do, still things left to do after we left. So I think it's just to keep pushing forward, and to know that kind of what Terry said, that like, it's still more to do. You pay to be there, so get everything that you deserve and you need, and that's what the Black Resource Center is there for, and that's what other things can be there for if you fight for them. So I think that was the last question, and I don't know, Zakia, you're opening it up to questions if anybody has anything, any questions or anything. So
Okay, so one thing before we get to questions, I wanted to read this quote from a student at SDSU, and that's very relevant today. And it was posted up in a yearbook in the year 1978, and it reads, "In this place, we have had a choice. We could decide to be involved in this our little world, or we could, as many of us choose, remain aloof. Protecting self, after all, we'd say there's time enough to be involved in years ahead. We could have learned here at small risk. Many things we'll now have to learn through living and dying in that greater consequence, to that greater world where every man and woman is involved, and seldom so by choice. We have spent much in time and effort trying to prepare to accept the charge, the mantle of citizen. We can only hope that this challenge is taken up by us all with a little more vigor than we showed here. As as a child lays down his toy and takes up the plow, the game is over. The world beckons. The victories of the stadium pale. Beside this new adventure, we can no longer smugly point to failures, not of our own, not of our making. It is truly our time now. Only the test of time will tell how well we did our homework." So I want to thank all the panelists for coming out today, and thank you, Maisha, for your wonderful statement. If you're watching, I want to thank and Dr. Reddick. Dr. Reddick is like, she's my mentor, and she means so much to me. So just thank you so much, Dr. Reddick, and
Hey, Dr. Reddick.
shout out Aaliyah, and just everyone who was able to make it to this event and just to support it. And with that, I'll open it up to questions from the audience or comments.
I don't have a question, but I certainly have a comment, and that is, so everyone that is on the panel are also my former students, and so I'm so proud of you guys. Thank you for putting this panel together and sharing your experiences with us. We really appreciate you filling in that void. And I know that you all know, because you're Africana Studies majors, that A lot of things that we do, we're not going to get credit for, but we do them because we know that we're making it better for those that come after us. And the other thing I will say is that you have an open invitation whenever you're in San Diego to come and experience the Black Resource Center. It really is the home, Zakia, that you describe for our students. To just come in, relax, study, whatever program. It really is that space, and we're just trying to make it bigger, better, and to develop strong partnerships with the community, including our alumni. So, you know, you guys already know, if you're in San Diego, you better come and see me. And Ashley, I've
Knew it was coming. I knew.
I've seen Zakia, but I have not seen you. So it's good to see you. I'm glad to see you're in law school. I hope I get an invitation to the graduation.
Of course.
But yeah, I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you.
You can also post questions or comments in the chat.
Well, I have a question then, Dr. Reddick. You know, we're in a, you know, a different time, you know, with the pandemic and such, but are there ways in which the BRC still needs to be supported, or, you know, is there, you know, what's the state of the BRC currently, and do you feel like it's you know, the administration is backing it in a way that it's serving, you know, the students?
Yeah, I do. I think that they support us. I mean, we've outgrown the BRC space. Like, we need to go up to a second floor or something like that. I mean, as far as students, really, the things that you envision for the BRC, like having a space where students can come and have org meetings, or, you know, study sessions, you know, celebrate ourselves like out in the backyard and stuff like that. Like, students come out for things like that. When we're on campus, the BRC is always packed. You know, our hours were 10 to 6. Students found out I was in the BRC at 7. They were knocking on the door at 7 o'clock. One, because it's the community, it's the family that Zakia describes. But two is because, particularly for our upperclassmen, they knew, like, on Friday, every Friday, Dr. Reddick had Sam's Club blueberry muffins, either Krispy Kreme donuts, or you know, my favorite donuts from the shop down the street from my house. Like, and we kept snacks in there, you know, so that they could grab a snack on the way to class or that kind of thing. And, you know, the way the BRC is set up, I can hear students, when I'm in my office, I can hear students in the kitchen. I'll give you one good example and then I'll be quiet. I was in my office working. I hear 2 students in the kitchen, and they're, you know, talking about how they're having difficulty with this writing assignment. You know, I love writing. And they're like, well, you know, it was due like the next day or the next couple of days. So I get up and I go in the kitchen. I know Morgan was on here. Morgan was one of the students. I think Tatiana was the other student. And so I just started talking to them about the project and just brainstorming with them. They're writing notes, we're brainstorming, you know, and I said, you guys got it now? They're like, we got it. They come back like a week or so later. They were like, I got it together. You know, thank you for helping me. That's why the Black Resource Center exists, you know. So we're always looking to improve on the, you know, the services we provide, the programs that we develop. And we're always looking for alumni to come back. The students love to hear the alumni's experience at San Diego State and what they're doing now. So in addition to it's now the Henrietta Goodwin Scholars Program for incoming freshmen, but we also have a sophomore mentoring program now, you know, and on the top of my list is developing something for commuters, because I'm hearing from commuters all the time that they feel isolated and forgotten and that kind of thing. So we have big plans, and we can always, you know, use your help, your support, or whatever. So yeah.
So I'm unsure if there will be any other questions, but again, I want to thank the organizers, everyone, all the administrators. Sorry, I don't know everyone's name, but I will kind of just go down the list. Thank you, Dr. Reddick. Thank you, soon to be Dr. Leah, soon to be coming up, possibly, I think within a year. Thank you, Dr. Green. If I am missing someone, please, please, please let me know. I just want to thank you all for just giving us this space, putting this event on the calendar. And I'm just very, very grateful that we were able to, you know, speak our truth about the time, about our time at SDSU.
Thank you for pulling it together. And thank you for all our alumni for doing this. We appreciate it. And we were listening.
That part.
All right, so I don't really know how, like, just to end this, but